My name is Sylvia Gibbs and I live in Slowett. My story is about the way in which the closure of a local textile mill affected my life. It encouraged me to make new artwork in a way I'd never ever done before. My story starts moving into my house 30 years ago, coming up into Crimble on a sunny morning. I could see at the bottom of my garden the mill and hear the sound of the looms and the clackety-clack noise, clackety-clack noise that they were making has been one of the very precious things about living in the house. 30 years later, the mill is closed and they begin to demolish the site. It takes a lot of doing, and it's quite interesting to watch as they take these weaving sheds down. The view on the other side of the valley suddenly emerges from my house. So never having been able to see the other side of the valley, that now appeared. By 2007 though, planning permission for 90 apartments had been approved. We were expecting major developments. About 2 years into this, I walked past the mill the day they were actually emptying the big tower for the last time. They were literally sweeping the last bits and pieces from the floor, and things were coming out of the window, dropping down 2 levels into a big skip on the ground. And so you could see the things that were coming out. Pieces of material, booklets, big chunks of yarn. And this was all dropping into the skip. And so I asked the people if they'd let me have 1 or 2 things from the skip. And they gave me 3 bags full to take away with me. And those 3 bags became the art materials I've been using ever since to make a whole range of artworks. When I got the bag home and opened it up, it actually looked rather dull, dingy, damp, and not very inviting. But as I looked more closely and dried things out, I began to think it was a treasure trove. There were some amazing things. The material was beautifully soft. It had a range of colours. It wasn't all dark and dismal. Fascinating messages on the cloth, different stitches, different labels, selvages that read things like superfine worsted, wool and cashmere jacketing made in England. And then I found what they call merchant bunches used to sell the cloth. And looking at them told me things about the mill that I never ever knew before. They told me Schofield and Smiths, established 1904, makers of fine worsted, and inside beautiful cloth that was going to merchants in London to be made into very luxurious suiting. So there was obviously a very high-end market for suits, but then there were more interesting elements. It became obvious that the company had been trading with Jeddah, Mecca, Riyadh, Medina, Daman, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Damascus, Oman, a whole host of countries. And what they were doing there was selling material to make long flowing gowns for men to wear that would be very, very cool. And so the quality worsted, it's very, very fine weave, was perfect material for that. So the materials were just fascinating. And as I looked at them more and more, ideas came to me. They began to look like the landscapes round here, the hills, the valleys, the stone walls. They began to look like the geological forms. And so I've made a whole body of work to do with this mill. Here are some examples. You can actually see how I've made things that look like pictures, landscapes out of my work, but also I've tried to make suits, new suits, to make a statement about what's been happening to industry, to people who become unemployed in the present day. The demolition of the site took a long time, but then at the end of February 2012, something else happened. There was a major fire, and the fire destroyed the rest of the mill. The whole building was encased in flames. It burnt all night. In the morning, it was still burning, but a shell remained. And since then, they've been pulling the last of the tower down and flattening the whole of the site. It's been a very sad, very dramatic, and at times very beautiful and moving process.